Thank you very much. Once again, a pleasure being here at this conference on an annual basis. I had been told to speak about my prognosis of 2019, and then I was told a short while ago by Akhilesh that Swaminathan Iyer already said it, has already predicted what will happen in 2019. And since I always defer to Swami's wisdom, I find it very difficult to either question or challenge his prognosis, which I was given a rough idea of by Akhilesh. I still have a small presentation, but we will only use this now as backdrop, since much of this now is part of what probably Swami has already told you. And we just had a 1 hour long conversation outside with some of you, which clearly suggests that either the polls are horribly wrong or that journalists live in very different worlds to bankers and investors. Because if we went by what journalists seem to suggest, Mr. Modi is on a roll. If you go by what investors and bankers suggest, the Prime Minister and the government is in serious trouble. So I don't know who's right and who's wrong, but this is broadly what the latest India Today poll, with a sample size of about 15,000, had to suggest. This is done, of course, every 6 months. So if you look at it broadly, it seems to suggest that Mr. Modi's personal popularity and that of the NDA is still reasonably high. They are, in fact, still about 10% points ahead of the UPA if elections were held today. This was the forecast of seats that was done. Now, seat forecasting is eminently hazardous, but even assuming that the forecasts are not accurate, the gap is still very high. And it does show that the NDA is still holding. Not surprising again, because remember, it's only really 18 months since they scored that remarkable victory. So 18 months really is not that long a time in Indian politics. And given that, I don't think you should be too surprised that this gap still exists. The interesting thing, of course, is the Congress, which was 44, and the UPA alliance, which was about 60 in the 2014 elections, is now up to 110, of which roughly the Congress is about 85 to 90 itself. Now that's a huge jump from a Congress perspective. It's better than what I think even they expected. In fact, most congressmen are stunned by these results. I think they themselves see themselves still very much in double digits, but this is what the polls seem to suggest. This is a breakdown roughly of where these seats or votes are coming from. If you look, the BJP's election was what in 2014 I once described as a northwest monsoon. A northwest monsoon swept this country, so from Goa to Jharkhand up to Himachal, the BJP won 90% of the seats. It was a phenomenal strike rate. Now if you look, therefore if the decline also which takes place is also in the north and west, because the fact is the BJP or the NDA had reached saturation point in 2014. It simply could not go beyond where it was. So we are including Madhya Pradesh as part of the West, but if you broadly see that is where, if anything, the slight decline in the NDA's fortunes is taking place. We'll come in a moment to what that means in terms of state elections. This was interesting. Any poll you do will always say price rise is the major issue. I haven't seen a single poll in the last 10 years where when voters are asked, what is it that troubles you most, they say price rise. Now, despite the government's claims that retail inflation is broadly under control, price rise was seen as the single biggest issue. The second one is interesting, corruption. Because corruption was believed to be one of the issues which had driven Mr. Modi to power. The belief that the Congress was a corrupt government and therefore you must vote for change. The fact is, people out there even today don't believe that corruption has disappeared. Maybe big ticket corruption, Mr. Modi could claim, na khaunga, na khane dunga, because there hasn't been any big ticket scam. But deep down inside, petty corruption, I think, still afflicts people and afflicts state governments, a number of state governments, including Mr. Modi's own government in Gujarat. Someone was there, we were having a chat, and I felt the same thing when I was in Gandhinagar. Every bureaucrat saying it's business as usual now in Gujarat. The corruption has returned, the networks have returned, the patronage has returned, the family relations, which have often dominated Indian politics, have returned. To get through to the chief minister, you have to contact the chief minister's son-in-law. So that, in a sense, we are back to business even in a state like Gujarat. The important thing is governance itself or communal hatred, two issues which otherwise excise the media, law and order. Don't rate too highly among what people are looking at the moment. There wasn't a sense that people saw these as major issues. And the economy, in this poll at least, was not seen by people at that moment as a major issue. But don't go by these numbers. But this is important. Because concern for the poor, 44% believed that the BJP is more concerned about the poor than the Congress. Now this might fly in the face of conventional logic. Conventional logic, particularly the Rahul Gandhi way of looking at the world, is that this is a suit boot ki sarkar. The fact is that that hasn't necessarily seeped, that perception doesn't necessarily hold deep down inside in India. I don't think people see this government as having necessarily sold out to crony capitalism. People still believe, and this is where the impact of schemes like Jan Dhan Yojana are working in the favor of the Prime Minister. In fact, the buzz is that in 2018, the Prime Minister of the country is going to give 15 lakhs to each person with a Jan Dhan Yojana bank account. That's going to be his loan waiver scheme. 2018, what the Congress did in 2008 with their farmer loan waiver scheme, the government will do with Jan Dhan Yojana in 2018. 20 crore schemes, 15 lakhs in everyone's account. Mr. Modi will say, I am actually the government of the poor. Complete reversal, some would say, in audiences like this as to what you expected from this Prime Minister. But I think then that's the irony of it. Once you're Prime Minister, certain realities sink in, and the reality is that you have to practice what will be called by some as a measure of populist or pro-poor politics. Is this government better than UPA? 47% said yes. 27% said same as UPA. Only 15% said worse than UPA. To that extent, I don't think anti-incumbency against the government, the central government, has yet crept in. And we'll come in a moment to a disjunction between central governments and state governments. I think if you ask people whether they are satisfied with their state governments, number of them say, no, we are not satisfied with our state governments. In Punjab, for example, when we did a recent survey, 80% said they were dissatisfied with the Punjab government. You know, it was the highest level of anti-incumbency that we have tracked in any election in the last decade. But contrast that with the central government, 47% say better than UPA, 27% say same as UPA. You add those two, that's 74%. From Mr. Modi's perspective, it appears anti-incumbency against Mr. Modi per se has not yet set in. Corruption controlled by Narendra Modi, yes, 32%, same 31, no 28. All these numbers as they come show that Mr. Modi doesn't have a serious problem. Yes, inflation has risen, say 34%, same 20, no 38. But if you add same and no, that's about 58%. All of them are showing there is no major anti-incumbency that has set in. Black money, obviously this is something which Mr. Modi promised, but turned out to be a bit of an election jumla. Intolerance, and this has played out in a major way, of course, in the last few months. Yes said 40%, same 22, no 31%. This would suggest a measure of social unrest. This would suggest some element of discomfort. What does intolerance actually mean? I think the debate has been wrongly couched. The media couches it in very polarized terms. But as we are seeing, whether it's with the Jat agitation at the moment in Haryana, whether we are seeing it in JNU, we saw it earlier in Hyderabad Central University, there's a growing sense that this government doesn't accommodate multiple voices to the extent that it should. It's a question of it's more perception here. Many of these polls are largely perceptional. So the perception is out there that the government of the day doesn't do enough to accommodate multiple voices. So the Jats feel they are not being heard, JNU students might feel they are not being heard, Dalit groups may feel that they are not being heard, and this is one of the danger signals for this government. This is Pathankot. How did Mr. Modi handle it? Most people believe he handled it satisfactorily. As I said, there is no major anti-incumbency that any of these figures show. Make in India opinion, 47% said successful. Can't say, because most people hadn't even heard as per our poll of Make in India, was 32%. Achhe Din by Narendra Modi. 40% said yes, Achhe Din have come. Presumably that doesn't include this gathering from what I could see. 22% said same, no said 31%. This is perceptional. Perceptionally, Mr. Modi still in that sense retains a high level of perception. This is what the present
Lok Sabha breakdown is as of February 18, 2015. But this is important. The fact is that Indian elections have become presidential or quasi-presidential. We can't get away from that. The 2014 election was clearly positioned as presidential. Increasingly, state elections are also presidential, as we saw in Bihar, where Nitish Kumar was clever enough to position it as Nitish Kumar versus who. But if you look at perceptionally at a national level, Mr. Modi still is very, very high, 40% versus 22. Now, the cover of the India Today was Resurgent Rahul. And the reason for the resurgence was 8% is up to 22%. And there was a belief that this is a sign that Rahul Gandhi for the first time is actually rising. I believe that's wrong. In my view, this is simply because Rahul is more visible today. There's a greater visibility to Rahul Gandhi today compared to 6 months ago, compared to 12 months ago, compared to 18 months ago. You could even argue that some of the issues that Rahul has picked up have been clever, whether it's net neutrality, whether it is the suicide of a Dalit student, issues that can strike some kind of a chord with a particular section of the people. But my larger belief is that Rahul has actually pushed the Congress deeper and deeper into the embrace of the left. To the point where in the Bengal elections, I am now told that the Congress is actually going in for a formal understanding with the left, where they will actually leave seats for each other. So Rahul Gandhi, even if these numbers show is growing in terms of popularity, A, there is still an 18% gap. B, my sense is this is largely based on his growing visibility in the media, not because Rahul Gandhi has, in a sense, done anything dramatically different. At best, his best, perhaps, the one issue which he has tried to capitalize is agrarian distress. By going to drought-hit areas and contrasting it with the Prime Minister who traveled relentlessly abroad, to some extent, he has been trying to build a constituency for himself in contrast to what Mr. Modi is doing. Some of his strategists tell me he's working to a plan. So I ask them, what is the plan? They say he's working to a plan of creating a broad alliance of the poor and the dispossessed. Now the fact is that there is always going to be a constituency for that. No one denies that. But I don't think Rahul has been able to capture the key centrist, middle class, middle caste space. And to win an Indian election, that's the space that you need to really capture. A more broad-based space. By offering an alternative to Mr. Modi in terms of capturing the imagination of a more aspirational India. That Rahul is far from capturing. So even while these numbers may show that he is on the rise, I don't believe that he still has any grand strategy to actually come anywhere close to what Mr. Modi's numbers at the moment are. And in a quasi-presidential system of the kind that we have, that means advantage to Mr. Modi. What are the 5 big challenges that Mr. Modi really faces or the government faces in the next 5 years, in the next 2 years? The first is Uttar Pradesh. This is the big prize, and this is where I will come to this question of a disjunction between state elections and central elections. Last year, the BJP lost the 2 big elections. They lost Delhi, they lost Bihar. Both were, in a sense, strangely enough, almost quasi-presidential. Arvind Kejriwal positioned the Delhi election as Arvind Kejriwal versus who? Nitish Kumar positioned Bihar as Nitish Kumar versus who? Plus, importantly, was able to string together a broad coalition of him, Lalu and Rahul Gandhi. So the pure arithmetic of Bihar worked in his favor. Uttar Pradesh is very different. If you went purely by what happened in Uttar Pradesh in the Lok Sabha elections, the BJP should be sweeping Uttar Pradesh in 2017. The fact, though, is that in a state election, A, the BJP doesn't have a face for UP. B, the BJP doesn't have the caste equations that UP requires. 2014, the BJP converted UP into an election where you were voting for Narendra Modi. 2017, the BJP may well find itself in the same problem that they faced in Bihar. Why should I vote for Narendra Modi and the BJP when my chief minister probably will be Rajnath Singh or someone else? On the other hand, the opposition has 2 strong leaders, A, in Mayawati, B, in Mulayam Singh. If you ask me to predict an election in UP, and UP is the most hazardous state in the country to predict, as of today, I would say it's advantage Mayawati. Mayawati is the one leader who will capitalize on this growing feeling that this government is anti-Dalit. She will probably end up striking a broader alliance, if not pre-election, then certainly post-election, with this new combine of RLD, JDU, and the Congress. And she has the capacity, therefore, to capture the vote for change in UP. There is a growing mood for change in UP because the Akhilesh Yadav government, for all its high-pitched advertising blitz in the last 12 months, is seen to be a government which has failed to deliver on its key promises. What is the BJP's response? The BJP wants to polarize UP. And this is where Mr. Modi faces a fresh challenge. UP at the moment, the BJP's plan for UP is polarize Western UP. In a week or two, they will go to the Supreme Court and say we will not challenge the minority status granted to Aligarh Muslim University. So the next university battle that is going to be fought in Aligarh Muslim University, where the government of the day is going to say, we concede that Aligarh Muslim University should not get minority status. They've already polarized Muzaffarnagar and parts of Western UP. They will continue to do that. You've got a Subramaniam Swamy who's gone to the courts and said that please implement in the next 9 months your commitment to decide who owns the title land to Ram Janmabhoomi. And therefore, you will play the Ram Mandir card, you will play the politics of polarization, but it is a high-risk strategy. It's a strategy which may benefit the BJP in the short term in some sense in UP. It will cost Mr. Narendra Modi at the center. If there is one warning signal for the Prime Minister, it is that. There is only so much that you can do when you want to control social unrest. But if you try to polarize the electorate, it can recoil against you. It happened in Bihar. The day that Amit Shah said that those who vote against this government, crackers will be burst in Pakistan, you knew that he was writing the obituary of his own party. The fact is that the politics of Uttar Pradesh will play a disproportionate role on Mr. Modi's government because the perception and surround sound, and because UP is close to Delhi, the national media will pick on it, is that the BJP is going back to the basics, is going back to the politics of Ram Mandir. So suddenly you will have the Aditya Naths and others out there on the street getting a larger than life presence in the run-up to February 2017. So my sense is that while the BJP did remarkably well in 2014, in 2017 it faces a much bigger challenge. And the more it gets into the politics of UP, I was on a flight just now and I saw Amit Shah coming to the airport. He said, I'm going to Lucknow. So Amit Shah will start spending more and more time in Lucknow in the next 12 months. But the BJP's attempt to win UP could in the long run damage it at the center. Because that was not why Narendra Modi was voted for in 2014. Narendra Modi was voted for in 2014 because he was seen as a change agent who would provide opportunity and jobs. The BJP is fighting state elections like the old BJP. Narendra Modi is fighting general elections like the new BJP. So his politics is to expand the constituency of the BJP. The state elections of the BJP, whether in Bihar or UP, are fought on old politics. How do I actually go back to my core constituency? And that is a disjunction which will cost the BJP, I believe, in the long run. The other big challenge, of course, is how do I build and sustain alliances? If you look at those numbers, NDA today has 20 parties, the UPA has 10 parties. But don't be surprised if in the next 2 years, some of those 20 parties begin to shrink one by one. Some of them are already on their way out, some believe. The People's Democratic Party of Jammu and Kashmir, how long this alliance will last in Kashmir is anybody's guess. My sense is it cannot last beyond a year or two, if at all that long. The fact is that there are that entire alliance which is there, most of them, first of all, are 1 and 2 member parties. None of those parties, barring possibly the Shiromani Akali Dal is facing a huge defeat in Punjab next year. The Shiv Sena and the BJP today are parties which are itching to fight each other, and you will find a fight next year at this time in Bombay during the municipal elections. You've got a NDA alliance which is increasingly looking like the BJP and a few small parties. On the other hand, the UPA alliance is growing at the moment. The fact is that you now have a stronger alliance between the Rashtriya Janata Dal, the Lok Dal, the Janata Dal United along with the Congress in a state like UP. You will also find that the Dravida Munnetra Kazhagam has now formally joined the Congress in an alliance in Tamil Nadu. I won't be surprised if the DMDK, the other party which is on the other side, will slowly move to the side of the UPA. So you will actually have a situation where because the BJP is playing the role of the big brother, smaller parties are finding themselves more and more discomforted with the BJP. On the other hand, because the Congress has shrunk, it actually works to the Congress's advantage, because today all these parties can start dictating terms now to the Congress. Nitish Kumar can dictate terms to the Congress, and Ajit Singh can demand its pound of flesh from the Congress in UP. And you will have a situation by 2019 where the UPA alliance will actually be probably as big in terms of number of parties as the NDA alliance is. And that is a cause again of worry for the Prime Minister. How do I broaden my alliance? How many parties can I actually give up so easily? How do I improve my relations with parties like the Shiv Sena? Is Mr. Modi capable of doing that is the other question. Or does Mr. Modi like the politics of Ekla Chalore? Is a question that he will have to answer in the next few years. The other states, the big state that he needs to win this year, frankly, the state election that he needs to win in 3 months is Assam. Because if the BJP loses Assam, it will be a clear signal to the opposition that 2014 was a general election which has no impact on state elections. Because in Assam, if you purely look at assembly segments, the BJP led in 69 out of 126 if you extrapolate from 2014 to 2016. But what is happening in Assam is typical of the politics that will happen post-Bihar. There is a 35% Muslim population in Assam, and you have the real possibility of a broader alliance being created by the BJP against the BJP. The AGP has decided to go on its own, and the smaller parties are more inclined today to tie up with the Congress to form an anti-BJP front, which is why Mr. Modi needs to decide how much will he invest in a state like Assam. And again, Assam faces the same problem as UP. If Mr. Modi goes into Assam and plays the politics of Assamese versus outsider, plays the politics of keeping the Bangladeshi Muslim out, somewhere along the lines, it will again communalize politics. It will again push BJP into the politics of the old rather than the politics of the new. But he needs to win Assam because this is the only state election, frankly, in the next 12 months where the BJP has the chance of supplanting the Congress and bringing in its own government. As of today, if you ask me, it is advantage BJP, but only as the single largest party. And they may not be in a position to form a government because all the other opposition parties are more inclined to unite and form a coalition against the BJP. Gujarat is the big election in 2017, if only because of the prestige of the Prime Minister at stake. And there is a sense that Gujarat is not the Gujarat of Narendra Modi. This is a Gujarat where the BJP is frankly facing a serious challenge at the local level. This is a Gujarat where most of the MLAs of the BJP are 4-time MLAs. And therefore, anti-incumbency is setting in. And without Mr. Modi there, and Anandiben Patel, frankly, is far more vulnerable to be targeted through anti-incumbency than a Narendra Modi was. The big picture, therefore, is while the BJP, as per our original figures, there is no anti-incumbency against the center, in state after state, the BJP is losing ground. Which obviously means also that one of Mr. Modi's big challenges, which was to bridge the north-south divide, which was to bridge the urban-rural divide, is frankly under some strain. If you go through these bi-poll results, some show that it's clear at the moment that there is no BJP wave in by-elections. By-elections, particularly in 2014, which were in 2015 and 2016, the BJP has done slightly better. But in 2014, the BJP found in several by-elections, they lost as many as 23 seats to others and only retained 20 seats. This comes to his fifth biggest challenge, which was in some way to try and become the majority party in the Rajya Sabha. It's now very clear that Narendra Modi will not get the kind of majority he needed in the Rajya Sabha to actually pass important legislation. The fact is that you now have a situation where the BJP will continue to remain a party dependent on these smaller parties at least till 2019. And if they don't win Uttar Pradesh, then till at least 2022, the BJP is not in a position to get a majority in the Rajya Sabha. This actually means that the overall figures for the NDA right till 2019 are not going to change. The 3 seats from UP, from Delhi are going to the Aam Aadmi Party. Bihar are going to the JDU. So essentially, the massive defeats of last year and the possibility that there is no major success for the BJP in the next 1 year means Mr. Modi will struggle to win a majority in the Rajya Sabha, which means that Mr. Modi will have to change his style of politics. I think the big picture really, frankly, is this, that Mr. Modi, what happens in 2019? Mr. Modi and the BJP still in pole position, but less than 275 seats. The Congress staging a minor recovery will not cross 100. Third front status quo. Mr. Modi is still very much PM, in my view, because there is no alternative factor. But what can go wrong? And this is where we should look at this. Anti-Modi alliance becomes nationwide. I think there is a Bihar formula which the opposition has found. The opposition has realized that if you can form a grand alliance against Mr. Modi, and the nature of the man is such, it's not difficult to form a grand alliance. If you ask most of Mr. Modi's allies, most of them say we should have some, sir, uske saath kaam karna mushkil hai. Because most of them feel that the Prime Minister centralizes power to an extent where most of the ministers, the Shiv Sena minister has not even had an audience with the Prime Minister in the last 1 year, Anand Gite. Has not even met the Prime Minister in one-on-one formal meetings, even though many would say, why do you need a heavy industry ministry, which is another matter. But the fact is that there hasn't even been that kind of formal meeting. There is, of course, the story which I write in my book, which is possibly apocryphal, where Prakash Javadekar on his way to the airport to attend a meeting was rung up by the PMO and told to change his clothes. He was going there in a jeans, he was going to in jeans, and he was told, please come back and go back into your kurta pajama. So if you have we don't know whether that's true or not, but it could well be. The very fact that this is actually told in Delhi's political circles means that there's a sense that Mr. Modi is big boss. Now, if that anti-Modi alliance, and I'll tell you this, Uddhav Thackeray told me this 1 year ago. He said, Rajdeep, don't be surprised one day if there is an anti-Modi alliance of which even I am a part. Because sooner or later, these parties will have to choose what kind of politics do you want. Do you have an anti-Modi alliance? Could be of regional parties, of loose regional parties, each with their strengths in their respective states. Now, if that alliance becomes nationwide, and it's not easy to cement it, but if it does become nationwide, it does pose a challenge. You have a situation now where the Aam Aadmi Party is almost certain as of today to win Punjab. So you have the Aam Aadmi Party winning Punjab and being power at Delhi. Mamata Banerjee almost certain to win Bengal. You will have either Jayalalitha or Karunanidhi in power in Tamil Nadu. Now all these parties come together, it works to Mr. Modi's disadvantage. The one advantage he has is that the more state elections Mr. Modi loses in the next 12 months, all these parties will face anti-incumbency in 2019. If you ask me today in Bihar, Mr. Modi has a better chance of winning a general election than he has a state election there. Today in Bihar, Mr. Modi would pick up more seats than Nitish and Lalu possibly in a general election. Because anti-incumbency A will set in, plus there the presidential factor will come in. But yes, an anti-Modi alliance is not necessarily good news for the Prime Minister because arithmetic does play a role in elections. The RSS-BJP tensions deepen. I think the point I'm trying to make when I say RSS-BJP tensions deepen is this whole issue of social unrest. I think somewhere there's a perceptional factor that the RSS and the right or the extreme right within the BJP is playing a disproportionate influence, particularly on issues which directly play out in the public domain. JNU is not going to win or lose elections, but it creates a perception that this government doesn't give a voice to those whom it disagrees with. And that is the worry that Mr. Modi should have. Unfortunately, the Prime Minister has not an iota of self-doubt. It's his strength and his weakness. You tell Mr. Modi that there is something wrong with the economy, if this gathering tells him, Mr. Modi will say, you are living in cuckoo land. I have never seen Mr. Modi in his entire political career accept a mistake. And he's been in public life now for a long time. Show me one instance where Mr. Modi has said, yaar, galti ho gayi. Maybe even on land acquisition. When it was far easier for him 18 months ago perhaps to go ahead with GST rather than land acquisition, Mr. Modi showed at no stage an element of self-doubt after the event when he tried to push it through ordinance that maybe this was a mistake. But if RSS and BJP tensions deepen to the point that Mr. Modi finds that perceptionally it's the extreme right or the so-called fringe right elements, and they're not fringe, they are at the heart of the party, frankly. If those elements start playing a disproportionate role in the public domain, and as I said, in the next 12 months with the UP election, you will find this happening. That there will be these conflicts that will be created. It could be Aligarh one day, it could be Faizabad, Ayodhya the next day, it could be some other conflict the third. That's going to be his big challenge. Can he manage these conflicts without eroding his own image as someone who's focused on governance? Mr. Modi was elected in 2014 because there was a sense that he was the governance icon. Every time the RSS resorts to an issue which caters to their core constituency, they nibble away at that image of the Prime Minister somewhere as someone who's a paragon of governance. So I think those tensions deepening, particularly in the next 1 year, is a big challenge that the Prime Minister will face. A new non-Congress, non-BJP leadership emerges. Let me be honest, and I genuinely believe this. Rahul Gandhi still remains Narendra Modi's biggest asset. You see, it is as long as he practices the kind of politics that he is at the moment. The fact is that there is a huge opportunity. The BJP at the moment, given the kind of expectations and promises that you see, Mr. Modi played the 2014 election like a T20 match, at least for audiences like this. He said, I'm here to fix a broken system. The fact is that system is not going to get repaired for a very long time. So there is disillusionment among a number of you. Now, therefore, someone has to capitalize on that disillusionment. Rahul Gandhi is incapable of capitalizing on that disillusionment because his politics is basically theoretical. His politics is that of some NGO sitting where he believes that agrarian distress has to be attended to by going there, making a trip and saying, no, farmers must be given greater MSP or increase the scope of Narega. It's not been done by providing necessarily an alternative paradigm shift to the kind of politics that Mr. Modi is making in terms of leadership. What the country is really looking for is leadership. In 2014, Mr. Modi was the right man at the right place at the right time, given what the Congress leadership was offering. You had a non-communicative Prime Minister, and you had a Rahul Gandhi who at the end of the day was seen as a bacha. That's the perception that was there. But 2019, if particularly point number 4 continues, and the economy remains mired in trouble, and if all the dire prognoses that many of you are making continue over the next few years, then there is space for an alternative leader who is able to say, I will come and fix this economy. Because to my mind, eventually the Indian elections of the future will be won by those who are able to offer a better vision of what the future of the Indian economy will be. All the rest is surround sound. All this social unrest that is supposedly taking over the country, disharmony, these are all issues which will have constituencies. There will be a Dalit Muslim constituency in some states which will perhaps move against the Prime Minister or against the BJP or the ruling order if this social unrest continues. But the critical factor, the mass vote, particularly urban India, BJP won 140 out of 200, more than 210 urban or semi-urban seats in 2014. That 140 seats will decide. The BJP will need to retain a large number of those seats to win the next elections comfortably. And that is where the other side has an opportunity to tap in on what I see is increasing urban discontent, and the fact is also in rural India there is agrarian distress. Who is able to capitalize on that and offer hope? At the moment there is a TINA factor. But Indian elections are known to notoriously throw up new figures at new times. The very fact that in Punjab today that alternative of change is being offered by an Arvind Kejriwal and not by the Congress is also a sign of the times. That Arvind Kejriwal's politics is striking a deeper chord than that of a Jat Sikh like Amrinder Singh. Suggests that in different states this mood for change which is there and a restive election is looking for new options. At a national level, in a presidential race, Mr. Modi remains that magnet. But at state level, you are finding other figures also emerging. And therefore, a new non-Congress, non-BJP leadership should not be ruled out as the principal challenger to Narendra Modi in 2019. That principal challenger could be a Nitish Kumar. That principal challenger, possibly if Arvind Kejriwal is able to in some way also reinvent his politics, if he comes to power in Punjab, can also be a challenger. The big picture, of course, then is that if you ask me today, in 2016, who would win 2019, I would say Narendra Modi will be India's Prime Minister for another 5 years, but with a reduced majority. And I would also say that I would not put my money on it at the moment. Because I would say that there is no reason in my mind why if Mr. Modi's party or Team Modi, and I think we need to make a distinction between Mr. Modi and Team Modi. I think Mr. Modi, the individual, still enjoys a very high level of popularity. But there is a growing disaffection with Team Modi. And I think somewhere Mr. Modi is going to have to recognize that Team Modi is going to have to also strike the same chord as the Prime Minister does. Let me leave you with what one cabinet minister said. He gave me the analogy of a ghoda running a race. He said, हमारे पास जो घोड़ा है, our ghoda is a thoroughbred. He runs very fast. प्रॉब्लम है कि बाकी हम लोग जो सब हैं वो हम धीमी तरह से चलने में, we are horses who know how to run very slowly. But if the first horse pulls us so fast, हम तो मर जाएंगे. So he says this, the Prime Minister's pace that the Prime Minister wants to set on certain issues, while we want to manage contradictions, we want to work with the bureaucracy, we want to find another way, we want to work as business as usual. The contradiction between what the kind of politics and the kind of governance that we are used to and what the Prime Minister is used to, there's a fundamental dissonance growing between it. The bureaucrats, the ministers are slowly pulling that horse back. And the horse is saying, "Nahi, I will not run, I will continue to run in this manner." And that might, in some way, actually prevent Mr. Modi from achieving his goals. My last point is also this, that in a strange way, we thought that Mr. Modi would take his big risks on the domestic front. The irony is the big risks he is taking are on foreign policy. Whether it's going to Pakistan and reaching out to Pakistan on 25th of December. He isn't gambling on taking risks at home. And I think the real test of that will be the next 9 months. This is the only window, I believe, that Mr. Modi now has of taking risks. Whether it's reshuffling his cabinet in a major way, whether it's pushing ahead with banking reform, this is the 9 months that he has. After 2017, Mr. Modi will be in election mode looking to 2019. In fact, the rumor is that he has told the RSS, you have these 2 years, आप कर लो जो आपको करना है, 17 के बाद मैं चुनाव जितवाऊंगा. After 17, I will work towards winning elections. Till then, I will practice my politics of governance, you practice your politics of cultural nationalism. The question is that going to be enough, in a sense, to win 2019? I believe yes, but as I said, there are riders. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rajdeep, as always. Entertaining, engaging, and controversial. Any questions? Or would you like me to start? Yes, gentlemen in the back. I'm going to request you to keep your questions brief because there is a lunch on the other side of this conversation.
Rajdeep, if you see the central elections in the last 2 assembly elections, the exit polls have gone horribly wrong. And the fact that when you look today at 2019, the issues which are there would no longer be there in probably during election time because something new crops up. So do you think Mr. Modi is taking a pretty calculated risk by not doing anything major on the polarization issue? Because Mr. Gandhi cannot hang it on for 5 years.
Look, let me put two things. First of all, the exit polls going wrong. I'll be honest. Most journalists who traveled through Bihar got this election bang on. It's the pollsters who messed up Bihar. I actually had a bet of 175 seats for the NDA and then for Nitish and Lalu, and then I got scared. So in typical Maharashtrian fashion,
Hey, Rajdeep, this you can't do. You can't say journalists get it right when you get it right and the pollsters get it wrong when they get it wrong.
No. But
The other way is equally possible as well.
both Delhi and Bihar, if you asked most journalists who were covering Delhi and Bihar, they would have told you what was happening. Please don't go by pollsters, which is why those first numbers I also don't accept entirely. Those are pollsters' numbers. But look, I think there is a sense that this polarization politics also has its limits. Rahul Gandhi's strategy, if there is this strategy of uniting Dalits, Muslims, dispossessed, is a strategy which has limited impact, I believe, in urban India in particular. The urban voter today has a very, very different idea of India and what he really wants out of government. Rahul Gandhi's politics, therefore, I think has limited appeal. What Rahul Gandhi was successfully able to do in Bihar was that he was actually a driving force behind the Nitish-Lalu alliance. He actually worked hard to bring the two leaders together on one platform. But if in Bengal, for example, he's now going to go ahead and have an informal understanding with the left, with whom you're actually going to fight an election in Kerala, it shows the limits also of this kind of politics. If I was Rahul Gandhi, I would actually work to bring all regional leaders together on one platform. Mulayam, one of Mulayam or Mayawati, Mamta,
bring different regional leaders on one platform. Can he do that? I don't think so. Will most of these factors remain the same till 2019? I think the economy will. In the end, it's the economy. If Mr. Modi gets the economy right, if jobs and opportunities are created, Mr. Modi will possibly win 280 plus very easily. If the economy continues to flounder, and many believe that there are long-term structural reforms that Mr. Modi is bringing in, will those reforms actually strike a chord by 2019 is the question. If they don't, then I think disillusionment will set in. And, we've seen in the past that disillusionment, once it sets in, can become a wave very quickly. There's nobody on the other side to capitalize on it. I think that's the question. I don't think Rahul is the person to capitalize on it. So if the opposition is able to offer a new face, new figure, then we don't know.
And do you think Mr. Kejriwal will take over Punjab?
As of today, Mr. Kejriwal is in pole position to win Punjab. The only factor there that he has is that I think this guy...
Manish?
No, he's got, what is his name? The person who helped Nitish with his campaign in...
Prashant
Kishore has become Amrinder Singh's campaign manager. Now, Prashant Kishore's strategy is to position this as Amrinder Singh Jat Sikh versus who does the AAP have. The BJP Akalis are out of Punjab. They are being swept out. It'll be a tidal wave. They'll be lucky to reach double digits. The anger against the Akalis has to be seen to be believed. They're seen as the most corrupt government that post-independence India has ever seen. Corrupt and unfortunately also inefficient now. Because jobs and opportunities are just not there in Punjab. 75% of Punjab, according to one pretty reliable report of people under the age of 25 are on drugs. That's the state of young Punjab today. So the Akalis are out. I would say today AAP has a good chance. If AAP doesn't score a self-goal between now and February, AAP is in pole position. Prashant Kishore is not some, we give people these labels that they can win any election. I'm told he's also being offered the Congress's campaign in UP. I'd love to see him enable Congress to win UP. If he does that, then I will say he's the Karl Rove of India. Until then, I'm not willing to say that anyone is a great political strategist.
Rajdeep, both Amit Shah and Modi are at least as clever as you. At least. Why can't they see what you're seeing? What prevents them from seeing it?
Look, let's be very clear. It's not as if any of what I've said is rocket science. I think Amit Shah, by his nature, is a party ideologue. Amit Shah genuinely believes that the party must continue to go back to its core, that it must raise issues like Ram Mandir. It must fight this debate on JNU in parliament on nationalism versus so-called pseudo-nationalism. Don't take a back step. Amit Shah's politics has been constantly of being a genuine party ideologue. Narendra Modi's politics has been of how do I catch opportunity and convenience. If Narendra Modi wants to address this gathering, he will speak, trust me, a very different language to what he might do in Ayodhya. Mr. Modi's politics has been of opportunism. Amit Shah is a party ideologue. Amit Shah is the one in charge of the party today. Amit Shah believes that if I go to Assam, I must take up the issue of Bangladeshi Muslims and take it to the extreme. Why not? That's what my core of my party wants. Narendra Modi, perhaps as we saw when he went to meet Sharif in Lahore on that surprise visit, believes he's a man of destiny, believes that maybe there's a Nobel Prize waiting somewhere, maybe believes that he's going to run India for 15 years because on the other side, the Congress party cannot offer a deeper ideological challenge at the moment. So he believes he's the lamba race ka ghoda. So while he sees this, and sometimes as prime ministers, you may not even see this. You're surrounded, Mr. Modi is today surrounded by bureaucrats and sycophants also, like any other prime minister of this country is. And sooner or later, you start also believing in your own myth. So even if you show this, Mr. Modi is not going to admit that the economy is in trouble. I haven't seen Mr. Modi in any public gathering. He's gone to the Economic Times Awards and all. It's all positivity. It's the nature of the man. It's his strength. Mr. Modi campaigns in poetry and governs in poetry. He doesn't believe in prose. He's a 24/7 campaigner. He loves the idea of campaigning. On Sunday, he went on 3 meetings from Odisha to Jharkhand. Bizarre. But he likes the idea of being there in front of large gatherings. That's where he's at his best. Now, that large gathering the people around him may not tell him some of these hard facts. Amit Shah, as I said, believes that the BJP must retain its core. That if the BJP doesn't retain its core, it will become the Congress party. A party without a real cadre. So in UP, for example, he will push the VHP cadres to work for the BJP by promising them a Ram Mandir. And in Western UP, whether politically correct individuals like me like it or not, he will play the politics of polarization there between Hindus and Muslims. That's Amit Shah for you. Now, somewhere in that politics, will you fall between the cracks? Because the other side is also recognizing that there is a vulnerability, as they saw in Bihar. Form a larger alliance, get your arithmetic right, and you can target the Amit Shah brand of politics as well. 12 months ago, we thought Amit Shah was the whiz kid. The whiz kid was defeated first by, I think we had this meeting 2-3 days after the Delhi elections. And Arvind Kejriwal showed that, even whiz kids have their limits. Arvind Kejriwal may falter in Punjab. I don't know. As of today, as I said, unless he scores a self-goal, he's winning Punjab.
Okay. Let's get a question from Swami. I think he's been waiting for a while. And I'll pass the mic to you next.
Rajdeep,
Please sit, Swami.
sure. Well, frankly, we agree on most things. Just two issues. I don't see this as a presidential system at all. Because in a presidential system, there are two big parties and all the others don't matter at all. That is not the case in India. Modi may have come up, but it's not that all the other regional parties don't matter at all. They matter a great deal and will matter even more. So I would say it's not remotely like that US presidential system, where unless you are a Republican or a Democrat, the others have nothing at all. It's very different. What we have in India is a wave from time to time. There was an Indira wave, there was a Rajiv Gandhi wave, there's a Modi wave. But not presidential in the sense of only two parties and the others nowhere. Okay, this may be a semantic thing. The one prediction I'd like from you, I agree that the economy is all important. If the economy goes bad by 2019, then I think Modi is in serious trouble, could be ousted from power. In those circumstances, is it possible to have an opposition which gets power but is not led by the Congress party? Can we have a prime minister who will be non-Congress and non-BJP?
I think the second question is the more interesting one, because I think you saw, Swami, in Bihar, where obviously the Congress had less at stake, where Rahul Gandhi was more than willing to be not just the A, B, but the C team of this alliance of Nitish and Lalu. Would he be agreeable to a similar position at the national level? Probably not, because his sycophants will tell him that, sir, you are a member of the Gandhi family, you're a man of destiny, you've got to take it over. But I think if he's clever, and if it is a matter of survival, and I think Bihar also was about survival, I think they have no choice but to be ready to consider an alternative choice, which is where the first point comes in. You will have to, when I say presidential, I believe you will have to project an individual and tell the voter, who is the person I am voting for? Yes, there are many parties in this country, but in a national election or even in state elections, for example, if the JDU-RJD alliance had been formed in Bihar, but the people of Bihar were uncertain about who was going to be their chief ministerial candidate, because Lalu had said, I will not accept, suppose he had said, I will not accept Nitish pre-poll as my chief ministerial candidate. I don't think they would have done as well. You need to tell people today, who am I voting for? Who is that one individual? Sometimes you can get away with it. Maharashtra was an example. The BJP didn't project anyone, or Haryana was an example. But in most Indian elections, you have to tell people who is my candidate. So if the Congress alliance in 2019, assuming the economy is in trouble, sees an opportunity and says, no, Rahul Gandhi will be our prime ministerial candidate, I think it weakens their chances. On the other hand, if they are able to find someone else, today we don't know who that individual is, and say, no, this individual, whether it's a Nitish Kumar or someone else, is our face, I think they have a better chance. I think Rahul Gandhi still suffers a huge credibility deficit, particularly even ironically among younger India. Whenever I go around the country and I give a line from my book, Rahul has never lost an opportunity to lose an opportunity, everyone laughs. and the very fact that they laugh means I think somewhere they recognize it's true. And I don't think that's going to change in a hurry. And I think therefore they will have to find a more credible face to lead this anti-Modi coalition. But I do see it happening. I do see an anti-Modi coalition possibly emerging by 2019. And some of it, don't be surprised, will also come from within. I mean, there are enough people in this government who I don't think like the idea of being told not just who your, what policies you have to put in place, but who your secretary and who your who even your peon should be. I mean, appointments of lower level government bureaucrats are decided by the PMO in this government. I mean, in the Home Ministry is a good example of it. I mean, that doesn't reflect too well. I think, Indians, many senior ministers are also tired about that. So I think you will find an anti-Modi coalition emerge.
And in Swami's scenario, who's likely to be Prime Minister? A non-Congress Prime Minister? 2019.
We often only, particularly in today's news, live by who's the latest sort of
Poster boy?
Poster boy. My sense would be a Nitish Kumar-like figure. And it comes from a large state.
I would suggest it will be a non-entity like Deva Gowda or Inder Gujral.
Not again.
No,
we had that once. It was bad enough.
That can happen post-election. That can happen because your other scenario that you are painting is post-election. Because you have a fractured mandate, you look for someone who's the least threatening. So maybe Rahul also would like someone who's the least threatening. But I'm told Rahul has a lot of regard for a Nitish-like figure. Don't ask me from where it comes from. But as I said, by 2019, Nitish will also face anti-incumbency. Managing this government in Bihar is proving to be very, very difficult. The Yadavs have finally got power after 10 years again. They are still going to police stations now and settling cases once again. So Lalu claims he has changed. But the fact is, a leopard doesn't change its spots. So, all those hyenas have once again baying for their blood.
Yeah. Next question. Can you just pass the mic to the row behind?
Here. Rajdeep here.
Yes.
Hold on. He was just waiting. I'll come to you next. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Rajdeep. My question is that most of what you have said is, so you just now mentioned an anecdote that Anand Gite has not met the Prime Minister for last 1 year. And you have been talking about Narendra Modi as if he is sitting in front of you, talking to every day, and you have been drawing conclusions, left, right, and center.
I don't think that's what he said.
That's my job.
No, you have drawn 100 conclusions that he doesn't learn. And I can give you examples. For example, Aadhaar was the good example where he could have said that, well, I don't go with Congress, but he chose to change. Foreign policy where he had a major thrust. And then I believe that for the last couple of months he's not gone, and there's no agenda also. She's obviously learned his lesson. Rural was not a focus for first 2 years, and seemingly we have been hearing noise. So I don't know what the reality is, but it seems to me that you have been talking what you want to talk rather than inferring from the data. I'll just give you one more example. You said intolerance is not an issue for public of today, but then you drew a conclusion that intolerance is the biggest thing which will bring Modi down. No, you just said, right? 1% of the people believe that intolerance is an issue, according to the numbers, right?
No, I'll tell you how it works. If you ask someone on a scale, what are your top issues, rising prices, they will always put intolerance at the bottom and they put rising prices at the top. But when you ask, do you believe this government is promoting intolerance, 40% say yes. That is a dangerous figure to have. To answer to your first point, please understand, my final prognosis, Mr. Modi is still going to be Indian Prime Minister. There is no alternative. 1 minute. There is a difference between Mr. Modi, the individual. I have always said this, that never underestimate Narendra Modi. He has an enormous capacity to be a survivor and to reinvent himself. Part of the reinvention is some of the things that you said. For example, foreign policy. The general feeling was Mr. Modi on foreign policy on Pakistan will be amateurish. And to some extent, he has been amateurish. You have a government which in 18 months has broken off talks because the Hurriyat is invited for tea with the Pakistan High Commissioner, something that is going on for years. And then you have the same Prime Minister rushing to have kebabs and tea, not kebabs, but tea and pakoras or whatever he was having with the Pakistani Prime Minister. Please understand that. Mr. Modi has a huge capacity. I am the last person to say that Mr. Modi should ever be written off. In fact, my big debate with the people before this show was that please don't write him off. He will actually survive. But my job is to point out the areas where he should worry about, he should have concerns. Because one of the things that any Prime Minister will falter is if he believes that don't worry, be happy.
No,
Rajdeep,
just
that's
think
not his question though.
My,
Yes.
my,
What's
my
your question?
submission to you is that it's quite complicated to call these things. I'll just give you an example. On the Bihar election day, in the morning, 9:05, you guys were talking, and specifically you were talking
Not me.
about how LJP vote has got transferred to BJP, and they're making a huge inroad because their vote share at that point, the numbers were wrong or whatever.
Wrong channel,
And
wrong channel.
And we drew all
Wrong
sorts
channel.
of conclusions.
No, I didn't.
Not him.
I
Wrong
didn't.
channel.
I didn't. I'll tell you what happened. That was, look, when numbers come in.
No,
in
no,
front-
numbers were wrong. Of course they were wrong, but then everybody got it wrong, right?
No, I can assure you, I will bring those people. And we had an office sweepstakes where I brought my number down to 160, so I lost. But the fact is, I think what you're trying to say is that I'm trying to fit.
And the narrative. You're
the
trying to
narrative
fit the
to suit
narrative
me.
to the person. No, I'm not saying just to suit you, but why? And because it's very difficult to draw conclusions. Why draw so many conclusions?
Because I think it's important when you pick a narrative, the narrative cannot be only what you look. There is one narrative that Mr. Modi today is the supreme leader of this country. Has nothing to worry. For the next 10 years, he's the Indian Prime Minister. There is this narrative. There is also another narrative, which I think we also need to start looking at, which is that things are not as rosy as they are made out to be from the outside. You talk to bureaucrats today, talk to senior politicians within the government as well as in the opposition, even within the government, there are worrying signals. My job is to provide, is to send you those. That's why I started with the macro picture. The macro picture says Mr. Modi at the moment is very much in charge. I made the point there is no anti-incumbency against Mr. Modi, the individual. But there is Team Modi. There is a government and there are state elections where Mr. Modi is facing a different kind of challenge. Now, you will say that's a narrative to fit, but it's not. It's a narrative which I am pointing out is reflected. A year ago, how many would have said that Modi would lose Delhi and Bihar? Let's be honest. 13 months ago, very few would have. People thought Mr. Modi was walking on water. That there was no question of him losing a single election. He lost 2 big elections where he staked his own personal prestige. What is he now doing? He's backing off. Suddenly those foreign trips are stopping. Suddenly he started talking about crop insurance. So yes, one way to look at it is he's learning from his mistakes. Aadhaar, you know what he said about Aadhaar during the election campaign. Now you find that he's actually pushing Aadhaar aggressively. Maybe it's a space of self-improvement. Maybe it's realizing mistakes that you make. But the other way to look at it is that Mr. Modi also needs to realize that unless he constantly reinvents himself, you can't have the same formula of 2014 and 2019. In 2014, he was the challenger. It's much easier to win an Indian election today, increasingly, when the economy is down as a challenger. When you're in power, you're going to have to give a completely different narrative to India. You're going to have to say, look, these are the 10 things that I've done.
Okay, Rajdeep's answers are very long, so try and keep your questions short.
Sorry.
We have time for 2 more questions.
So Rajdeep, in Delhi, do you think BJP is making its grave deeper by playing either through Najib Jung or through Delhi police? And consequently, how do you think Aam Aadmi Party is doing well on the governance part? And secondly, the budget, do you think could it be a big ticket reformist or will it be a non-event?
On budget, I will say nothing. I will leave it to Swami and Jaitley to sort out the budget between themselves. And Swami would do a better job than Jaitley at the moment. But that's one. But on Delhi, one of the strange things of this country, and this is why UP will play an important role in the next 12 months. Because it is located, Delhi is just a municipality, 70 seats, smaller than Bombay. And yet, because we practice doorstep journalism, Arvind Kejriwal has become this larger-than-life challenger to Modi. It's nothing to do with the Aam Aadmi Party's actual strength. It has more to do with the fact that where he's located, he gets disproportionate importance, which is why BJP needs to manage UP well. You cannot have a UP where there will be another bout of riots, God forbid, in a Faizabad or a Muzaffarnagar. And trust me, UP is on a powder keg. We saw what happened with the Jat. There are parts of this country which are on a, jahan chingari, you just need to light one flame. In fact, I am convinced that a section of the possibly real estate speculators and the Congress have been responsible for spreading this Jat violence. I have no evidence beyond that one audio conversation of a Congress leader's political advisor. But we are in that situation. Now, managing that is important because if anything happens in UP, its importance nationally becomes more. Similarly with Delhi. I don't think Mr. Modi needs to get into any confrontation with Kejriwal. He should ignore Kejriwal. But the more he gets into a confrontation with Kejriwal, Kejriwal benefits. Kejriwal, and if he wins Punjab, he will be a national figure tomorrow. And he, like Modi, has an enormous capacity to play the media. He is probably the cleverest leader after Mr. Modi in recognizing how to use primetime media to build your own personality cult. Mr. Modi does it, and Mr. Kejriwal does it. These are the two leaders who have mastered this art.
Okay, the lady in the...
Hi. So as we've discussed, clearly Modi has evolved. He's not the Modi of Godra. As we also know, Rahul Gandhi is clearly not evolved. And he continues to stagnate with the same issues that have plagued him throughout, right? At what point do you think the Congress will either come to terms with this or they won't, which is the larger issue, that if they continue with this Gandhi family ideology, then how does the Congress ever come back?
I actually don't think the Congress can come back unless it reinvents itself. I mean, I know in the past that people have written that, Congress is like Mark Twain, reports of my death grossly exaggerated. And never write off the Congress party. You never should write them off.
So, the reason I'm asking you this is, every political strategist says that never write off the Congress party. And I'm not a Modi fan, so clearly I'm looking for an alternative here. But the point is that how do you not write them off in the current situation?
I said that. As of now, unless they reinvent themselves, they have no chance. What does reinvention mean? It means a new leadership. To my mind, if this party remains mired to this family, or umbilically tied to this family, it will never be able to reinvent itself. Because the party, is unable to empower state leaders. Today, the future of India, and this is the bigger point, the future of India is not in Delhi. The future of India is in Gandhinagar, it's in Kolkata, it's in Raipur. The BJP, to its great credit, has built up much stronger state leaders than the Congress ever has. Modi himself is a good example of that. So if the Congress is willing to have a more of Pepsi-Cola-like model, where you have strong, retailers or whatever, brand products in each state capital who are, driving your brand, then you have a chance. But look at Congress. They will lose Karnataka if elections are held today. Siddaramaiah is a disaster. They will probably lose Uttarakhand. Harish Rawat is a huge question mark. They will lose Himachal Pradesh, where there is Veerbhadra Singh. They will probably lose Assam. As I said, BJP is likely to emerge the single largest party in Assam, where you've got a 3-time 82-year-old chief minister who should have been sacked a year ago. And the main leader who was ready to become chief minister has moved on to the BJP. You've got a situation where the Congress, frankly, just like the BJP is losing. So the real challenge is actually regional leaders. The real challenge to this Congress, Modi duopoly, for people who may want alternatives, lies outside these two parties, outside traditional politics. Kejriwal has realized that. Forget about the way he's done governance in Delhi. But at least the man has recognized that you have to move outside traditional politics to win Indian elections now. You cannot do this foxtrot between these two parties. What is the Congress's strategy for Punjab? Akalis have failed, they will naturally return to us. People won't. People no longer just return to you because a party has failed. It happened. People now are looking at other options. It could be Kejriwal somewhere, it could be a third party somewhere else. But I think that is the real 5-10-year projection, is of a non-Congress, non-BJP, much more credible national front emerging. That I think is possible. The Congress itself, if you ask me, I'm only putting this rider because I'm worried that 3 years from now Rahul will be the Prime Minister.
Worried is the right word.
Which could well happen. No, not worried, but he could be, and you'll say you were horribly wrong. But I believe that the Congress party has to drastically change its style of functioning to survive. It cannot survive in the present way. There's no state today where you can say Congress is on the comeback, frankly.
Is there a Narasimha Rao-like figure lurking in the Congress somewhere who could potentially come and lead the party in a different direction?
You've got a 45-year-old who is surrounded by people who tell him, sir, you just have to wait. Ultimately, even if Mr. Modi is there for 10 years, you'll only be 55 when you become Prime Minister. You see, if you've got that kind of a culture which is based on the, the Congress will have to give. Okay, chalo, Rahul Gandhi becomes the leader of a Congress party, but he then has to empower state leaders. You can't have state leaders like Siddaramaiah and then expect to win an election. You're going to have strong state leaders. Uman Chandi is one good example of a leader who still today probably will lose Kerala now because of history, but otherwise at least was given some space. But most Congress chief ministers are given no space. Tarun Gogoi some space, but generally Congress leaders are working in that India has passed.
Okay, yes.
What is the political repercussion of Rajan not continuing as the RBI governor, if any?
I think it would have a huge political repercussion somewhere. I think I think it would send out a message to people like you. Let's look at it. What is the big risk that Mr. Modi can take? Next month, cabinet reshuffle, make Raghuram Rajan finance minister. Narasimha Rao did it with Manmohan Singh in a different time, different age, exactly 25 years ago. For someone like me, it would be a fascinating way to then draw parallels. That when you're in trouble and you need a big risk to be taken, which is forced on you, take that risk. Can Modi take it? Or is Mr. Modi the kind of leader, this gentleman may not like it, is Modi the kind of leader who doesn't want anyone in the cabinet who might be intellectually far superior to him, who might actually become the darling of the middle class if he was in power for 2 years as finance minister? Can Mr. Modi handle that? So far in his entire political career, Mr. Modi is terrific with young people. 20-year-old, 22-year-olds, they get charged by his energy. Mr. Modi is terrible with peers. I don't know of any peer in Modi's own age group with whom Mr. Modi has had, who actually may be more skilled than him, whom Mr. Modi has given the true space to. He's very good with young people because he has that energy. He radiates positivity. But a Rajan, let's be honest, if Rajan is given finance minister, Mr. Rajan will be every day on the front pages. Mr. Rajan is going to be embraced by pink papers, but that's the risk that he should take. If I was Mr. Modi, that's the kind of risk you should take. I don't think he will. I think Rajan in August will go back. Because Mr. Rajan, whether in one of his speeches, I think had an analogy to Hitler. And again, this gentleman won't like it, but one of the things is Mr. Modi has an elephantine memory. He doesn't forget, and he certainly doesn't forgive. He has spent too much of it. He invests even today, he invests a lot of his political capital in settling scores. Far too many. In his own party. Look at the quality of his cabinet. Could he not have brought an Arun Shourie in? Could he not have brought... look at the kind of people that he has had in his cabinet. Most of them are second-raters. Barring 4 or 5, most of Mr. Modi's cabinet are second-raters. Can he not find first-raters? He used to talk about lateral entry. Why could he get more lateral entrance into this government? He has the huge popularity. His popularity figures won't go down if he gets Rajan. If anything, it'll go higher. But is he willing to take that risk? If he does, then he's right and I'm wrong, because he will then be able to prove that Mr. Modi is willing to even take those big risks.
I think it's a non-issue. What we're talking about is a non-issue.
How?
Finance ministry is an important political position as well. So he would not want to send a message to his political party that he can bring somebody who is not in the political domain and install him as a finance minister. At the end of the day, this is also a whole mechanism of rewarding people, right? Who have been with the party for a long time or whatever.
No. Mr. Modi was elected. Mr. Modi was elected in 2014 as an agent of change. That he was not and he keeps saying that. I don't believe in traditional politics. I don't believe in these but look at what is happening. Whether it is Narega. The other way I can look at what you're saying is that as he goes into power, as he becomes more and more prime ministerial, he's actually become he's become a symbol of status quo. Whether it is Narega, whether it is Aadhaar, whether it is on quotas, Mr. Modi is not shown any major inclination to take genuine risks. Making Rajan finance minister would be a big risk. I concede that. But it's a risk worth taking. What is the downside? Arun Jaitley ko aap defense minister bana do desh ka. He'll be very happy. Honest man in a defense ministry. And make Raghuram Rajan the finance minister. What's the downside? Let's be honest, everybody agrees the economy is the biggest concern for this government. If anything that can go wrong for Mr. Modi out of all those factors, frankly, it's the economy. Everything else, social cohesion, he will manage. That I agree with you, has been exaggerated in a way in the media. 100%. In my view, if Raghuram Rajan today is asked to be the finance minister of the country and said you are a fully empowered, why not? I don't see why Rajan would not accept. But my belief is that given the fact that Modi could not even make Shauri 2.5 years ago. But it's not a popularity contest. I think Mr. Modi is clever enough to recognize that the one weakness in his government at the moment is that there is a perception. There's a perception that the economy is not performing as well as he had promised 2 years ago. That there are serious reform challenges. There is also a perception, whether we like it or not, that Mr. Jaitley at the moment has not been able to rise up to the challenge. Now you will say reality, I don't want to because the cameras are on. So I'm going to say there's a perception. Okay, there's a perception.
There's only a perception of cameras, Rajdeep.
Now as we both agreed, or we all agree, one thing about Mr. Modi is an extremely clever individual. I think he knows what is going on around. I don't think he doesn't, beyond the point, Mr. Modi doesn't suffer fools easily. But that's the point where the gentleman's come in. At the end of the day, he's also the head of a political party. He has to manage interests. But I don't think that making Rajan necessarily would mean that the BJP would collapse. This is the most powerful prime minister India has had since Indira Gandhi. He has the largest mandate. Let's be clear. Mr. Modi can get away with much more. But look at the people he's appointed. Arvind Panagri and Niti Ayog. Niti Ayog is another example of the albatross of not changing. What is the difference between Niti Ayog and the previous planning commission? Nothing, frankly. Except for the name change, nothing. What are Mr. Modi's big ticket ideas for India so far? Make in India and Swachh Bharat. Let's be honest, are they really genuine game changers at the moment? No. You need someone who's going to come in as a genuine game changer. And you only have 12 months. After 2018, Mr. Modi will get into election mode, rightly so. Fir Jan Dhan Yojana, he'll win the election of 2019. But does he want to be remembered as a prime minister in history who actually changed the face of India in terms of the economy? Now, Venkaiah Naidu in charge of smart cities. Do you think he has the capacity? Let's be honest, he doesn't have the capacity, boss, the bandwidth. You need someone. Piyush Goyal has the bandwidth. Nitin Gadkari has shown bandwidth. But there are just handful of them. Even Suresh Prabhu, to be honest, has struggled with railways. Outside the Shusha, you ask railway bureaucrat, they'll tell you it's a mess, sir. The railway is a complete mess at the moment. Maybe it's a legacy issue. A lot of these are legacy issues. You can't blame Mr. Modi's government for them. But you came into power promising dramatic change. You didn't come into power promising incremental change. You didn't come into promise कि मैं ये छोटा यहाँ ये छोटा कर दूंगा ये मैं तो देश बदलूंगा. He came into power promising that the country will change. That's why you have to take the big risk. Then you've not even done one. There, the gentleman is right. In 24 months, one small cabinet reshuffle, out of which Manohar Parrikar, frankly, was Chief Minister of Goa. He should have remained Chief Minister. You brought him as Defense Minister. And you're going to lose Goa next year. In fact, I didn't mention that. That's another state you're going to lose. You have alienated 35% of the Catholic population with your beef ban. There is no way in hell you can win Goa now. You have lost the election. Because you see, this is where the divisive politics which works, your ideological politics can affect your state governments. What did you do in Bihar? You united that 20% Muslim population against you. Why is Assam no longer a done deal? It should be. It's a terrible Congress government. It's not a done deal because 35% Muslims is a large number. You've alienated them because they don't matter in your larger matrix. So I think we've drifted to various things. But if I was Narendra Modi, and I'm not, fortunately, I would bring in a big cabinet reshuffle next month, whatever it is. What's wrong with accountability? All the points that you all make, accountability, your finance minister is being moved to defense ministry. It's not some come down. No. Even if it's वो तो politics में होता नहीं है ना. Mr. Modi also trusts very few people. His problem, you are saying that you are making, but trust me, this is the man. I have known this man for years, long before he began. That's why he and I, in a way, have had our ups and downs. No, it's not. You show me I will show you track record of the Prime Minister. I'll show you his strengths. He has, he's a karma yogi. He works 24/7. I will openly tell you his strength, but this is one of his weaknesses. His weakness is showing in 24 months now, almost the government, only one cabinet reshuffle. Where you had Manohar Parrikar, who was only brought in, frankly, doing a good job in Goa. He's out of depth in Delhi. You have brought in Suresh Prabhu, decent choice. But beyond that, please show me which are the new dramatic faces that you have brought. Are you telling me that this cabinet is full of performers? Shouldn't you have accountability? Wasn't that why you were brought in? You are not the Congress party. Congress party mein ye hota hai what you are saying. Ki isko bhi accommodate karo usko. Modi doesn't need to do that. Modi is the boss. As big boss, I can choose Raghuram Rajan. No one will say no to him. Nobody in the RSS, anyone. Modi is more powerful than Mohan Bhagwat today. Let's be clear. Mohan Bhagwat cannot veto Raghuram Rajan like Sudarshan could veto Jaswant Singh 18 years ago when Vajpayee was Prime Minister. Modi is a much more powerful Prime Minister. Modi can go to Pakistan, meet Nawaz Sharif and get away with it. And popularity is there. It's not as if the party is favoring it, but he rose above his party. To his great credit, he rose above his party in dealing with Pakistan. Can he not rise above his party to deal with the economy? Because if you go down this route, this is his one Achilles heel. I think we all agree that in 2019, the only way Modi can lose is if the economy doesn't do as well as it is being projected. That is the only thing that can go wrong. Address it, fix it. Now don't rely only on yourself. My final point is the problem is for Modi, reform is himself. मैं make in India करूँगा, मैं start up India करूँगा. You need to set up institutions. The same problem with Kejriwal. You see, individuals cannot substitute institutions. Mr. Modi will have to create an architecture where economic reform becomes part of the lexicon of every bureaucrat in government of India. Only then is it going to work, not through bureaucratic resistance or not through by still working through the same obdurate bureaucrats. So you need to take risks. I think Mr. Modi is losing a huge opportunity if he doesn't go in for a major cabinet reshuffle next month. It's a big chance and it's probably his last chance. Because then he's in election mode.
Sorry, so I think you took the positive aspect of my question.
Yes.
And if Rajan were to go away from the RBI and doesn't get a job as a finance minister, is there a political repercussion within the BJP, or they'll say, "Chalo, gaya, acha hai, be interested, niche leke aao"?
No, there won't be. From what I am told, Arvind Subramaniam is the front runner to take over from Rajan as RBI governor. That's not a bad choice at all. I don't think it's, I think also let's not exaggerate the importance of individuals. I think it's the messaging. If you make Raghuram Rajan or someone like that of stature today as finance minister, I think it will set a powerful message. I am told that the front runner is a Piyush Goyal. Now, if a Piyush Goyal becomes finance minister of the country, at the end of the day, it's again the PMO basically running the show, which some may say is not a bad deal. At least it will implement the prime minister's vision. But I think bringing in a Rajan will set, you've got one of the finest minds in the world, and you want to reach out to the world, surely. Bring him in, and I think Mr. Modi, it's a win-win. What is the downside I'm unable to understand for him?
Okay, Rajdeep, the downside of this is that lunch is getting delayed. Thank you very much. We've gone well over time. But clearly, Rajdeep is a stellar speaker and a fantastic journalist. Thank you, Rajdeep.